The use of space as a visual element is perhaps easily overlooked, but once you start noticing the use of positive and negative space, you'll find it very fun to examine. Space can be filled up with something, that is, positive space, or the space in a visual work can be filled up with nothing, implying perhaps emptiness, tranquility, or calm. That's not always the case with negative space. Just because a space is positive and filled up with something doesn't actually mean that it's good, but it doesn't automatically mean that it's bad either. These terms are used, as all of the art terms are, as abstract, non-judgmental descriptors. See if you can examine the use of positive and negative space in yet another cat image, which suggests, by having so much negative space, that the compact positive space of the cat is, after all, very, very important indeed. And perhaps the use of negative space in this image gives, from the viewer's point of view, a sense that the cat is either superior or at least in a position of power. The next element, texture, is perhaps most easily observed in three-dimensional works of visual art, like sculpture, or even if you turn to the related field of architecture. Texture refers us to our sense of touch, and so it's fine to use adjectives like smooth, rough, sharp, prickly, dull. Any of those words work to describe texture. However, an artist can also imply a texture by clever use of value, line, shape, other elements of art to evoke a sense of how this would feel if I touched it. The next image that you'll see is a very strange looking sculpture, Lunch in Fur. This was conceived by Oppenheim as an idea that, first of all, everything looks better in fur, but it also offers a sort of strange sensation to the viewer to imagine the texture of a furry bowl or a furry spoon, and perhaps how that might feel if you ate food that was in such a furry bowl. This work was composed among the surrealist artists in the early part of the 20th century, and indeed it's meant to make us feel uneasy with things that should seem normal, a plate, a spoon, and a bowl, but we're uneasy because the texture is all wrong. We expect a clean, smooth surface to eat our lunch from, not something furry. Finally, the element of form can refer to one of two concepts. First of all, form can refer to three-dimensional constructs. Whereas shape is a two-dimensional expression, form can refer to things that exist in three dimensions and thus have height, width, and depth. You can think of forms as being able to contain something, a volume of something, just as a glass is the form of a cylinder and can hold a volume of water. Many of the forms you might think of are Platonic solids, that is, they're geometric shapes like cubes, cones, cylinders, and spheres. But just as with shape, a form can be more organic. It still evokes the idea of containing something not flat on a page, but containing something in space. The other use of the word form is similar to its use in musical elements. That is, the form of a work can refer to how it's unified with structural elements. Perhaps there is a repeating motive of color, or a repeating shape or figure that we see throughout the work. Perhaps it's divided into bands of positive and negative space that give it a sense of unity within itself. In the next image, there is both an evocation of form as a three-dimensional shape in the arched curves of the flying buttresses. These arches are actually parts of or sections of, if you think about it in a big enough way, of a sphere. but also the recurring arches themselves as a motive, as an idea, give the image unity. And that image of the arch has a tiny little, dry little, very little pun at the very bottom of the image. If you look closely, there's a sandal, and shoes and sandals have arches in them. A happy accident, someone dropping their sandal just in the right place to make a good visual pun.